Okay, this is my social media pitch for DIY, which stands for Do It Yourself. This is going to be a social media platform for independent musicians as well as fans of that music. So the problem right now is that music scenes are dying. There's a decline in local venues, and this has been a steady decline since COVID. Even though the pandemic has ended, venues have still been unable to match the profitability before it, and we're still seeing a steady decline in venues from capacities of 100 people to 1,000. Number two, there's a huge lack of support from major companies. There's very low profit shares of streaming revenue and services like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. And this creates a situation where the only artists that can really be financially dependent on their music is the top 1% of artists in terms of streaming. And low exposure. Sites like Instagram and TikTok, you can get lucky with algorithms, but it's not specifically designed for fans to find new music. And I think we can create better algorithms in order for that to happen. And the conditions above equal lack of creative music. And as Urkovich says, the problem is in order to make music memorable, to sell more hits, the industry has increasingly limited any outside creative voices. Human and community expression, nuance, and artistry are not at the forefront. So the solution is to get independent musicians and fans connected. And as Ditto Music CEO Lee Parsons says, people know not to trust the music industry anymore. And we want to use that to our advantage by creating a space where we invest in creators and artists, give them fair profit shares of both subscribing revenue, streaming revenue, as well as merchandising. This will make them more financially dependent on music and able to create music without having to worry about second or third jobs. Uh, Moreover, we would like to put streaming and communities on the same platform, and I feel that Bandcamp and Spotify don't really mend that gap as well as they could in terms of having a streaming service where you can also have forums and follow each other and follow artists and keep up to date with what they're doing. I think we can take a better approach and have a more engaging community. We would also provide a quality digital merch stand, so a streamlined service in which that we could both allow musicians to sell homemade merch or help them create merch and have a small cut of that to create new streaming revenues or new revenues of income for both the artist and DIY the app. And lastly, we would allow musicians to find each other. We would have forums in which bands could find new members, people start bands, people could have feedback on the music that they create. And as Taylor Loren says, the value of social media isn't the technology, it's us. So a focus on the users and the consumers and helping them get their content out there would definitely help us in the long run. And I think a lot of companies are very focused on short-term profits at the moment. So the value proposition, a possible subscription model of $4.99 a month, and this can increase in time. But with merchandising, we could partner with clothing manufacturers and music pressing manufacturers to allow bands that generally wouldn't be able to afford the down payment on merch to create merch and have a small cut of that. Venue partnerships, we could have fundraising gigs, we could have events in which we sponsor small concerts in order to raise awareness about the app and overall increase our profits in the long term. And finally, investing now equals a dedicated audience in the future. And I think we can learn from the example of YouTube. George Stroumboulous, the head of creator engagement at the time when YouTube was first emerging, said to me, the revolution was all that these new voices had the chance to emerge, but we had to make it sustainable. We had to make it possible for them to be awarded for their creativity. And we need to find a way to better reward artists for creating good music. And we could very much capitalize on that in the market today. And finally, these are the citations. And that is it. Thank you for listening.